Oxygen will have this first ban coming up in a moment, as well as the final ban. TSM will be getting the next two, as Maverick is going to be our first operator banned out by Oxygen.
So going to have the Maverick out first, and that's going to lock up a lot of these hatches. If we see the Thatcher here, that would be pretty unique, but we'll have to see. That makes a lot more sense. We'll get the Hibana out of the way. Kaid is going to be a big priority here for the defenses. We'll see if somebody wants to remove that. Remember, we also have a Zombie still and Mira, as well as Valkyrie. So many different defenders that they can potentially look into. This makes a lot of sense. TSM are going to be on offense first, so they're going to remove the Azami. Not going to allow Oxygen to try and build anything upon her back, and it's going to be down to Echo as the last one removed. That's going to leave Valkyrie and Maestro as well, which we've seen quite a few times when it comes to Bank and Mira all in for play. This leaning quite a bit towards the defensive end. I think the biggest thing that we're going to have to notate is the back and forth dance of Thatcher as well as Kaid that we'll see amongst these defenders and offenders. It's just going to have to try and be the read as to what's going on in that situation. Yeah, we're going to be utilizing the attacker repick here quite early on already, as Bolo currently on a blitz, Geo currently on a Blackbeard, but I would be very surprised if these stay.
I mean, not only that, too, we've got a Galaz picked in from Achieve, so like you said, this will be very surprising if they stick with it. No sign of a repick just yet, but they still have quite a while to do so. Okay, Geos, that was the expected one. The Blackbeard would have been a real curveball if that was locked in, so expected that to switch away, but more so curious to see what happens with Bolo as well as Achieved operators. Bolo is going to still end up switching away, but he's going to be on a Zofia instead, and as well, yeah, that Glaz gets 6 picked out, or rather repicked out. The entire lineup actually is really going to get shuffled here in the final seconds now that they realize what the basement setup looks like. So the Osar comes out for Merc. We're also going to see a Ying come in for Achieved, and finally Geo locks in onto the line after everything is said and done. So actually a pretty big change up to the roster.
Yeah, once TSM got a read on what was going on, they immediately knew that they wanted to go for a server offense, and that's why we've seen Merc shift his way over to the Osa. Every single time that we've seen a server take in recent history that she has been available, she's always been played, and it's really nice to have her around like the server stack as well as just the off angle for the single breach you can make for the bottom of blue, just giving you some more cover rather than just like the cart and like the desk that sits in the middle of the room trying to protect yourself. And you can see TSM starting to build themselves up towards this in the first place. It's going to be Dream inside of server at the current moment, trying to play forward towards the dirt tunnel, but it's really only going to be the drone on the other end of the shotgun at the current moment.
Just waiting for this, trying to stay mobile, so if a drone does flood in, the intel is going to expire just as quickly as it is gained. Ultimately, a player is going to be forced away. This is Dream once again playing on the inside of security. He'll be forced away from that position just because things are a little bit too dicey. And as you see up on the top of blue, he's got a pretty secure lineup here. This is going to be a big booming execute from TSM, though. They'll pay no mind to the setup here on the inside of security and waltz right in. Merc obviously with an Osa shield to keep him relatively safe from this position, but he's not alone, as 2 other teammates pushing in from behind him here. So this will be a bit of a delicate hold for TSM as they do get server control. How are they going to be able to keep it becomes the follow-up question.
Scary moment here for Achieved. Oil canister has gone on Dream, awaiting his arrival. Stuns out, ADS won't catch. He's going to end up blocking off the top of the stairwell, but as soon as he does that, one of the Candela's stuns will be able to catch him off guard. They emit at different levels, makes it super difficult to try and get away from them. And with that being said, TSM can now propel themselves forward. Nitro cell prep for Fox. He'll wait for that breach to go off and more than likely be tossing this Nitro sky high momentarily. EE1D out, won't mark anybody, but
nice shot
to take down Chala, a big pick, even though the exothermics have already been burned up. Nitro cell out, it'll claim Achieved, and more than likely a shield as Bola will go down. Oxygen making mincemeat of this TSM take.
Massive shot from Nurz, more so in the fact that it saves a piece of utility for Oxygen. They're able to keep that Nitro in pocket, and you see the effectiveness it has now, shutting down potentially 2 different players there as one goes into a downside, the other one taking a hefty amount of damage from it. Achieved, in fact, still on the ground now. Geo is going to try to hop drop in, but it'll be read like a book, and OXG has absolutely no problem cleaning things up here to give them a confident first round here on the basement, despite the loss of security at the beginning of it.
I mean, what a straightforward affair from Oxygen. Really only having to deal with the server take. It eventually goes down to, obviously, the last member of TSM that just goes for a quick drop into red. So fairly easy for them, just utilizing a lot of their utility towards the actual plant attempt, as well as maintaining the crossfires that TSM seemingly couldn't deal with. Just running time and time again into some Oxygen bullets and losing way too many bodies. Really no way that they're going to be able to work it out from that situation. Also, the time delay from Oxygen there working out pretty handedly, forcing TSM towards more or less the halfway point of that round. They try to go for that plant, but still all of the utility prep for Oxygen when it comes to a situation like that. Still have the nitro cells especially, and that plays extremely well into what we saw go on for the rest of that round. So now TSM down 1 as Oxygen will head towards, I believe, staff room in the open area. Yes, indeed, with a hold on this top floor. They still have one reinforcement to set down. I don't know if it's going to be the single panel upstairs inside of supply or janitor, but we'll just have to see.
TSM switch up their lineup yet again here, but into a more expected chain of operators this time around here. Just a good split of soft and hard breach to Finka because she's kind of a requirement right now. Your optimal hard breach in this situation is going to be Chala. And then, of course, Geo still take care of the ranged soft breach. This needs more so, obviously, to take out utility rather than the walls here, but can still be useful in a pinch to knock out a square or two. He's just going to be rotating himself around, trying to make those rotate paths easier in the event that he ends up going back upstairs by knocking out this stairwell. And other than that, things are relatively quiet around the map right now. TSM taking their time with the initial clear, trying to build up a good plethora of intel for themselves before they start to commit to anywhere more risky across the map.
Yes, indeed. TSM taking their time, making sure that they know what this Oxygen setup looks like on the inside of the building. Has some pressure on this mid floor, but obviously, like we talked about previously, there is one player inside of this janitor closet. It's going to be Foxe, who's currently on kind of a heater, at least in that first round. Has a 2-0 score line, trying to propel himself even further through this round, as he is potentially a player starting to move in towards stock. Yes, he does. Geo, I think, should be in this area for the meanwhile. Has a drone to be able to assist, but it's really only him. Well, actually, at second glance, Bolo as well could be a part of this top take. They know that it's only down to one player here, but what's the move from TSM? They could have Bolo try and slip into conference and try and confirm from the rear, but actually no, that's all been reinforced up as well. And that last panel that we were talking about inside of the prep phase has been used to lock up the wall for Foxe. So he's in a pretty safe posture at the current moment, especially with this deployable shield. They're going to be wasting quite a bit of time trying to dislodge him from this location. Not only did that actually get the deployable shield, but it also got the mute jammer on the wall, so a little bit easier even for Foxe in this situation, or rather TSM at the current moment. Speaking of Oxygen, though, they've been able to fire back as they'll take down Merc after his big pickup on the Laxing.
Even exchange so far between these teams. Nurzo, you can see, not going to feel secure in his spot down below, but Geo's still going to be able to grab Foxe just over by the janitor position, and Chala with one more as well to catch out Vertical, trying to move on the outside of Archives. A cleanup so far from TSM, leaving it all on to Dream and Yours. Without the security of the basement to fall back into, unlike the last round as well, things are going to get a little bit tough as these players will still be left relatively out in the open to be cleaned up by the 4 remaining members of TSM. Good catch with the Magnet here, though, is going to eat up one of those pivotal frag grenades, make things just a tad bit harder for TSM as they try to mop up shop with the 30 seconds remaining.
That's the beauty of Wamai. Having those discs in hard-to-reach places sometimes goes past the vision of the offense, and you can burn up some more utility, whereas you didn't really think you could before. Ill-advised swing from Newers still get taken down, and so will Dream. TSM loses singular body and get gifted around because of it. The open area offense not working out in really any regard for the members of Oxygen. Constantly trying to spin around the map and catch TSM off guard on some of these rotations that they were attempting to pressure, but Oxygen is good for all of it, including Chala inside of top square. Way too many bodies going the way of TSM in that situation, so the round will be theirs as well. Instead of going back towards open area, Oxygen are feeling as though they need to change things up, and I would definitely agree. They're going to head towards the top floor here and attempt a take, or rather a defense on CEO.
Could see Oxygen pushed into a similar corner as they were on the previous round. We'll have to be careful advancing to this site, especially if TSM are going to be prominent on these repelled angles from the outside. They could very quickly limit the amount of aggressive defensive options that Oxygen has to stop TSM from taking control of the site. Similarly, though, TSM is going to need to get a few players in critical positions, such as the top of Spiral or Square side with the walls being open, to properly utilize those repelled angles. So that'll be the big challenge for them and TSM coming into this round.
Absolutely the case. honestly, TSM going to be mixing some things up when it comes to this lineup as well. Bringing the Twitch in on Shala. Going to be having some fun with that. Achieved with 0, as well as IQ working her way in for Bolo. So have a bunch of different options to try and break down this top floor take. I think the big part of this is going to obviously be the info game that they can get going on this mid floor to try and assist Bolo in clearing out a lot of this hard to reach utility that he can get through the soft flooring or potentially a window, but that's a little bit more risky. So now for TSM, they'll drone out lobby and start looking through to see where they can potentially work their way in. And oh, actually, completely forgot about this as well, John, from today. Just got caught off guard with the whole morning thing. Actually, Mira not available to be played at the current moment. Completely forgot about that. And that's why we haven't seen her today. I was sitting here like, you know, with myself, I was like, why haven't we seen her really utilized? And I remembered why. There's a weird bug going on with Mira right now, so she's actually turned off. I do believe we'll get that confirmed. But yeah, more than likely the reason we haven't been seeing Mira here today. But past that, though, TSM, they worked their way into lobby and start building upon this and working their way towards the actual site.
Merc starting to creep forward over towards Tellers, where he'll begin to enter the defensive positions of Oxygen. Going to need to go a little bit further than Tellers specifically to reach that point, though. As you can see, we've got a couple stragglers hiding out near the main stairs area, more so than anything in terms of the actual archives area. It's going to be a little light on presence at the moment from Oxygen, so Merc will have a very easy time clearing this out and opening up these bottom to top angles. Not that they're really going to be able to open up any... Oh, maybe. Hold on. Hold my words for a moment here. As Vertical waltzes right up, catches an over-eager Merc trying to line up a frag grenade, now pays the price for that over-eagerness. Bolo, though, is able to exchange it right back out as he catches Noors elsewhere on the map to equalize things, and Achieved pushes it that one step further to put TSM in control.
Yes, indeed. What an awkward situation for Merc there. You're kind of just asking for somebody to step up to the hole and shoot you in the face, but it is what it is. They're still able to work it out at the end of the day, and Bolo most definitely, as he has came back with a vengeance this stage. Last stage not performing too well, but this stage especially lights out when it comes to these gunfights. And yet again, Achieved with a nice pre-fire towards the top of the stairs. Will get a double to match the double of Bolo's, and that'll be the round, just giving over Merc for a nice little gift to the gods of Siege.
Really lights out for the entirety of Oxygen's defense there too, as every single type of move they try to make in the kind of dying throes of the round are immediately countered by the TSM setup. Beautifully done, and it's exactly the thing I was worried about with Oxygen going over to that site. Those repelled angles, just way too much to deal with. Even from trying to reposition themselves, Oxygen immediately was getting shut down as they tried to move across the site and the surrounding areas because, in part at least, of those repelled angles. So TSM with a confident throw over the last 2 rounds, they will take the lead away from Oxygen now at 2-1 here, trying to push it one step further, and Oxygen will actually play into the same site again. They'll make a return to the upstairs hold. This will be bold considering the way the round ended up playing down, with TSM having control over the large majority of angles at the end of that round here. So a lot of work needing to be done from Oxygen to make up the difference and find a victory here this time. It's also important to note, too, they still had a basement now unlocked for play. They could return to that if they wanted to as of this round, but no longer going to be the case. They apparently feel that they have the winning strategy for this upstairs site.
All right, so just got it triple checked by production, and yes, indeed, John, Mira is actually banned at the current moment from competitive play due to the Mira bug, so very unfortunate, but obviously that does free up a ban slot as well. It just really, really sucks because there's a majority of the maps that we have played today that Mira plays really, really well on, so not having access to her is definitely something that a couple of these teams are going to wish that they had. But past that, though, Bolo working his way up towards Noors. Back and forth we go, slowly creeping up. Noors especially.
Oh, no way.
Been talking so much about how he was the new Bolo. Swings right into the crosshairs of said man. Jason Doty takes him down, but it's immediately traded out. But Laxing almost losing his own life as well. I swear to you, if Laxing was not a 3-armor in that situation, Bolo kills 2 people right there.
Oxygen counting their lucky stars. That does not turn into a 2-for-nothing trade and at least mitigates it. Now do a 1-for-1. Obviously the damage against Laxing, though, is palpable and is something they'll have to make up for throughout the rest of this round. Merc's damage, of course, is something of note too, but he's on Finka, so he can fix that to some extent. it's not as much of a major concern for this team's end-of-round play. Speaking of which, we're starting to creep towards that point where TSM may have the aggression necessary to get their footing onto the ground inside of the building and begin to work up that spiral staircase position to start taking away site control. You can see, though, there's a little wrinkle in the corner of the lobby that Oxygen are going to be throwing in TSM here to try to trip them up, and so far that plan has worked out quite well. Foxy now on the top of the main stairs as well continues to watch for those positions being established so that they cannot get that far in their strategy.
All quiet across the map. Only the rolling out of an exothermic charge and a loud boom to come afterwards. Jackal will get the wall open. Now we're back to quietness as the drones roll around. These roly-polies will get taken down from Oxygen. Dream working his way up through Janitor at the current moment, but a frag grenade from underneath will force him back and actually almost be his demise as well. It's going to be a swing off of the windows from TSM, but nothing really giving at the current moment. Everyone else locked into battle, and Dream now down to Foxy trying to work his way towards Square, but that's ill-advised as Chalo actually went out that engagement. Oxygen, worse for wear at the current moment. Laxing still low on HP. Vertical actually the only one at maximum at the current moment, and with TSM bearing down on their location, there's a very, very long list of ways that this could go awry for the defensive end. Won't be able to secure Dream's location. It's going to be some nice shots here from Achieve, but won't be able to land any of them on the Checkers player. Chala's worked his way over towards the center desk and will begin the plant. Nitro cell out, and that'll be a kill for Laxing from underneath. No one preventing that. Now Achieved must hop too. The cross will be watched, and he's sprinting through the breach. Not something that you want. And also the Ash player over here still towards Elevator. TSM, they just don't pick up the pieces there at the tail end. Everyone is very late to the party and just assuming that there's not going to be too much going on that mid floor, and Laxing gets away with one of his hallmark plays yet again, ratting out on that mid floor, getting away from the TSM info game, and able to end the round with a nice Nitro cell.
TSM just way too many variables playing into their assault of the site, and unfortunately left far too many of them unchecked as they got deeper into it there. So Oxygen able to bring things back under their own control. The retry, which I was second guessing to be fair to them, does end up playing well into their favor. So good on Oxygen for having the confidence to go back into that, and more importantly, having the corrections ready to immediately deploy to make sure that that site still fell under their control when everything was said and done. Now they're going to make a return to the basement finally, and they've already had success here earlier on in the half. In part, to be fair to TSM, this was due to a kind of strange attacking strategy they deployed where they sent 3 players in through Dirt Tunnel right off the bat. So going back to our more normal execute style, assuming we're going to get that from TSM, could allow things to be a little bit easier for them, but we'll have to wait and see.
5 seconds to insertion.
We will indeed, but we won't have to wait too long as the round starts now. And what will TSM attempt to do with their map control this time around? Well, they've brought Bolo on the Jackal. Now, the Inox is an amazing piece of utility for the offense that allows them to clear the map pretty damn quickly. He's one of the only ops in the entire game that will give you direct info towards an actual member. I mean, the EE1D can obviously do that, but you have to move. Dokubi's calls can, but it's not as direct. Jackal is by far and away the best roam clearer when it comes to this game, because you do get that direct info where your teammates can enact themselves upon that player and try and stop them from getting to some of these safer parts of the map and rotating off from their original position. And speaking of original position, look at how Oxygen has set themselves up across this mid floor. We're going to have 2 players inside of the elevator hallway. Scratch that, one inside of Tellers that'll pop a shot at Merc and only catch him in the shoulder, but now the info game's starting to work out for TSM as they've taken the top floor.
Fox is still waiting patiently at the bottom of the elevator for any action to be thrown upon him. Laxing will be forced, however, to go back down just due to too much pressure coming in from TSM up on top. Bolo has kind of been the instructor of this. He's been able to successfully force away the pressure on the main stairs and open up a pathway for some of the other members of TSM to also use this to get down. Looks like the large majority of Oxygen has given up their extended positions. In fact, all of them have. Dream, of course, still maintaining that little bunker at the top of Blue Steer, so he will continue to play from that position. But in terms of anyone else trying to maintain open area or, say, janitor control upstairs, that is all done and dusted. TSM have cleaned that up and can now focus entirely on their descent into the basement.
Well, not too much happening past that. Yes, indeed, Merc, that is your own drone. Good job. We've been able to establish that and establish this info game that's now traveling downstairs. Jackal is going to pack the secondary hard breach, and a nitro cell will be tossed up to try and prevent that from happening inside of small office, but it's going to land on deaf ears. Vertical now assuming the position inside of sight. He'll hold onto the door for small office and attempt to see if there's any TSM member that wants to try and place their face inside of that hatch. Geo's going to end up opening up the other hatch now, though, as they've gotten rid of at least the Goyo canister, but not the shield. Dream will be playing around that with the laser gate and 2 ADS, as TSM, they're at a lack of time at the current moment, and they really haven't made any headway towards a singular part of the site. As of right now, this is looking like a drop towards the back. Merc's going to be able to take down Newers because his feet block a lot of those bullets for his actual noggin, and now Foxy is going to actually trade things out here. So they're going to be able to potentially get Chala back up here as Merc's ability comes off of cooldown, but past that, it's going to have to be a strong-handed fist from TSM to take over this site, and it's already working out pretty well for them at the end of the day. Achieved with a very nice angle, but Chala's going to be able to take down Vertical in the site that could have shut down Achieved in this situation. Candela in, he's going to try and pre-fire this, but Geo's taking him out as well. TSM catch Oxygen completely off guard with the backdrop. They constantly are thinking that they're going to go for the server take at some moment in time, but I mean, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, Oxygen. Your blue hold, it was too strong. They didn't want to deal with it, so they go the other way, and it works extremely well for TSM. It's a 3-2 lead for them now.
Unfortunate, too, is the intel read in situations like this from Oxygen in the past has been strong, so you would have thought they would have been able to adjust, but just not able to get the appropriate players in position in time to counter out the hatch drop on the other side of the basement floor. So things go into the favor of TSM. They don't have the edge going into the 6th round. Through the last round of the half, they can very potentially lock in the 4-2. On the attacking side of Bank as well, be a massive boon for them as they switch over to their defense on the next one. And then from that point forward, would have the advantage to try and rocket themselves onward with only 3 more rounds needed to close out on this map. Oxygen, though, want to put a stop to that, and they'll attempt to do so with their open area hold, as clearly the basement round did not yield the best results, and they don't feel that they can lock in this one on a reattempt, unlike the upstairs hold that we saw play out a few rounds back.
Yeah, I think they definitely have an opportunity here just because of how long it's taken for TSM to clear out things on a moment-to-moment basis throughout these rounds. But when it comes to the actual site execute, TSM are about it. They were able to clear out most of that building, obviously, inside of the opening 2 minutes, but the last little time before that execute goes through, there's really not too much going on site, and then everything happens in a snap of a finger. You immediately have Achieve drop in towards the back. It starts punishing everything that's going on for Oxygen's defensive setup because they have nobody over towards the actual elevator or like cart space. He's got free reign over that. He can lock down your gold vault player. You have all that pressure coming through marble or white stairs, or whatever you guys call it at home, and they're all trying to take the fight with the player inside of the actual office. So it just makes things super, super difficult for any of the Oxygen members to try and battle back towards Achieve's position and try and assist their vault player in anything of the sort. So it just makes things quite hard at the end of the day. TSM able to take that round, and they'll begin taking this top floor.
TSM begins the clearance procedure here of knocking out any of the extensions from Oxygen. There's going to be a little bit of it, but more so deployed downstairs rather than what we have seen here from these guys. Foxy is going to be forced off his janitor position, as we did see a small extension into that spot, but not going to be able to keep itself alive for very long when Bolo is able to waltz right in and knock out the wall behind that player's hard point. So once again, TSM making quick work of the kind of casual extensions from Oxygen. Going to take a little bit more, however, for them to push beyond this and be able to get access to the open area, excuse me.
Already have some solid camera placements here as well. Achieved moments away from death, although probably unbeknownst to him at that current moment as he was sledging up the floor. He's going to continue to do so as they're trying to weasel their way in towards the teller's office area. Again, breaking up these hatches along the area for open area, actually. See if they can potentially catch anybody off on the far side that is usually occupied if nobody is playing the copier window. So now, for Merc, gosh, they have found so much space here, John. Oxygen are just not playing these rooms very tight-knit. It's mostly all into sight, but where are these other players at? It's just a string of them across the site. We have 2 other players downstairs attempting for a flank. Now, we've seen this time and time again before, the biggest one obviously being Beast Coast double stack for the blue stairs to try and prevent the exothermic charge from going down on bottom square wall for Kitchen. But obviously, TSM are ready for this, and they're actually going to swing into it, but no, achieved! He loses out, Vertical's taking him down, and that's a huge pick, but fortunately enough, they have a Chala, and he has a refrag.
This is the big problem right now for Oxygen, is they are able to get away with these little steals every now and again, but it's almost immediately getting mitigated out in a lot of these situations here. Need to try and stop the bleeding or cool the aggression off after that first kill has been claimed here. Once again, Vertical, though, going to be able to strike true for himself, but again, another member of TSM trades it right back. Geo keeping himself alive, or Merc rather, to be able to at least use the Finka charge for a moment, but hasn't bought enough time for Geo to make the play inside of this 1v2. Not looking like it, as Nours is able to get himself out into the open to shut down the last member of the Assault, and at least lock in an even 3-3 scoreline as we switch sides.
The timing on that is just so very poor. And also, I just really didn't like the ego challenge there from Achieved. I think it was a little overdone. I honestly just hold on to blue stairs, nade it, do anything. If you want to go for a swing like that, you know how many bodies are standing around you at that current moment? Did you see the amount of TSM people inside of Square? Have somebody swing blue with you. Do something like that. Don't go for these hero plays. They're going to end up getting your team punished, because that's really what it was. They had to slow down because Achieved died, and they didn't know who was going to be watching blue. So it punished TSM severely in that situation. You have both of the stairwell shot out, or held down, and you know, all the hatches are shot out, but they don't have an Oryx, so they can't even get back to site if they're stuck downstairs. You know, just not really the best way for TSM to play that out, especially with how far along the path they've gotten themselves. But I mean, beggars can't be choosers at the end of the day. TSM are going to split 3-3 up against Oxygen here on Bank, in which they don't really have a lot of VOD on for OXG, just given their recent history of maps.
So we'll see now if either one of these teams is going to be able to play things out into their favor. Oxygen with a few change-ups coming in, most notably Vertical, of course, adding in the Capital. Not an operator we tend to see too often. We see it flirted with a bit on the initial picks, but more often than not, at least for the games that I have been watching, it ends up getting swamped away by the end of the drone phase. So Vertical going to actually give it to us outright this time. And we'll see how those micro boats might be able to work out in flushing out some of the positions, such as Red Hall, or further back, such as towards the lockers, when Oxygen are ready to make their push happen. Got a lot to bleed through before they can get to that, though, as TSM has a very active deployment of their own roster. 4 players, I believe, if I'm looking at it correctly right now, roaming around the top floor, or first floor, in fact, at the moment. So definitely some things to be dealt with by the Oxygen camp before they can even get within range of the execute. Speaking of which, there is the chance to shut out Chala, but Chala reads it right back at Nours and takes him down instead, giving the opening kill over to TSM again.
I mean, Nours had everything practically minus Chala's like, yeah, kill me. Just shoot me right in the face, please. Like, that was incredible from Chala. What a reaction time, but fortunately enough, they have a Vertical, and he's hitting his mark here today, at least at the current moment. 6 in 4, able to come back from the depths here of his stage 2 performances so far for Vertical. Achieved, be holding on to server here for a moment's notice. Does have the drone inbound to his current location. Doesn't want to try and overdo it at the current moment, though, as this could be a death spell for TSM if they continue to leak bodies. And they've already gotten so much done. That pick onto Nours is dastardly, especially with the fact that he is Finka. Also Achieved. Oh my god, no.
Goodness.
Laxing just went Vertical outside. Oh my god, that is the worst thing that could have happened to them at the current moment. The only secondary hard breach that they have is obviously going to be Fox. I think Dream still has some Selma charges. He has 1. But that's going to be not only the nades and the health out of Nours, but also Capitau's smoke and firebolts gone. And Laxing missed his frag on the mid-floor. TSM gets back downstairs, Blue.
Horrible chain of events for Oxygen here, but they're going to have to fight within it regardless, as 3v4 now becomes the circumstance thrown at them. Bolo, of course, will have to back up a bit further into gold bars. Now he's been spotted out in this cheeky position at the bottom of the drop hatch. Was hoping to maybe catch a member of Oxygen as they were going for it, but no longer will be the case. Instead, these remaining 3 going to have to try and brute force their way around, as they can use the can opener to at least open up this hatch, but that's really just a small side piece at this point to be able to watch out for flanks. It's not going to let them into the site. It's not going to get them any closer towards it. It's not going to reveal any information as far as what the setup looks like for TSM. Speaking of which, Achieved is actually still back here. I thought he had long gone from this server position, but no, was maintaining it. So finally get found out. That evens out the numbers, but does it leave enough room here for Oxygen to get the plant down?
Zero room for error, zero room to breathe, and a Foxay ready for the Nitro Cell. He's getting tagged up though. He'll get swung from Bolo. Nitro Cell out, will claim Dream, but no, it actually won't. He has to double back, and they're gonna be able to pick it up anyways. TSM, an explosive end to a round that they had already practically gifted towards themselves, but Oxygen, they at least have to make an attempt. And it was a pretty feisty one at that, dancing back and forth off of that utility game. Oxygen unable to get through the thick of it though. TSM to claim this round after quite a few interesting instances amongst these two teams.
Yeah, a bit scrappy to get things going, but they do indeed keep it going in their favor once they are able to retreat down to the basement. That initial flood of players. Great stuff from TSM as it allows them now to preserve the lead. Heading this first into the second half here. Just 3 more rounds stand between them and the victory today against Oxygen, as well as still a flawless record here in stage 2 of the NAL. You can see it there at the top for both teams right now. They're both sitting at 2-0, but only one can keep that flawless and try to carry it forward. That would be even better, of course, if they can do it inside of regulation, as that serves them even more the better to give them that additional point for winning things out here, but should it go to OT, probably not going to surprise either of these teams too much. They'll be perfectly fine to take the 2 points that they would get from winning in there.
5 seconds remaining.
It's going to be the open area defense here for TSM and Oxygen with a lineup that's looking to take the top floor. They'll have the Jackal as well as the Amaru along for the ride, so the info game as well as the quickness of Amaru to try and capitalize on a situation like this. Achieve going to be giving some early feetsies towards the top of square, so we'll see if Newers can potentially suss any of those out. Speaking of Achieved, he's actually going to stick around, playing quite aggressively off this Prisma. I really like this mostly because a lot of teams will accidentally pre-fire a Prisma or something like that just to make sure it's not a fake, and you can swing off of that info. So we'll have to see exactly what happens here. But speaking of Newers from earlier, he's starting to work his way up blue stairs, and Oxygen already starting to build up on this info matrix, with Zero adding some of those Argus cameras towards lobby.
Achieved and the rest of TSM still constantly waiting for a chance to strike here in their exposed positions also. So as much as it's going to be an opportunity for TSM to make impact, the same can be said for Oxygen, with these members of the defense being so far out into the open. Neither team, though, able to put their right foot forward just yet. That is, of course, until Newers is able to get himself into the action, where he'll find Achieved and knock out the Oryx. Some chances to fire back at that apparently being drawn out as Bolo expends just a bit of ammunition, but unfortunately not leading to a whole lot. Every single member of Oxygen still stays at full HP and ready for the next challenge here.
I don't really know what went down with Achieved in this situation, but quite unfortunate at the end of the day. Vertical is going to be the one downstairs. Laxing will be back up towards the top of square. Seemingly has some players in towards his side that he's going to have to deal with. And yes, I'll have Bolo here after he tags up the initial part of that Prisma. A stun in. Bolo trying to occupy the angle for as long as humanly possible and add some shots at the very end just in case Laxing wants to try and swing. Geo will take down Foxay in the meanwhile, though. This could be Zero off the board, and a lot of different pieces of utility they could have utilized. Oh, what a beautiful read here from Geo. The Beast Coast special will not work out this time, although the kill's going the way of Oxygen, and Dream planting in a completely different area. So actually, Oxygen is using it more as a fake. It's something to pull TSM towards open area and make them assume that something is going to happen inside of that space. But no, it's a kitchen take instead, and Oxygen are able to claim the round.
Works out excellently there for Oxygen, keeping themselves very close to the scoreline of TSM, and close as well in a competitive sense. TSM now shifting up their site yet again. They will not go back into that same site as we saw in the previous round. Instead, it's over to Tellers and Archive for the next hold here. Operators will adjust appropriately as they might need to be able to play into this site, but overall things are not going to see a tectonic shift inside of this round. TSM still keeping the same flavor about things. Usual bit of mitigation coming in there for Bolo to throw out the magnets across the map. Merc will be kind of your designated roamer, obviously, so he's going to be on the Oryx. And aside from that, a sprinkling of utility to allow these players greater capability to kind of take these early fights.
And that's what we're seeing Vertical work in pretty easily with the IQ as well. There's just so much utility for IQ to deal with, especially if you can get the verticality here. You can get rid of things like my discs, the Prismas, Vout Cams, Mute Jammers, the whole 9-yard, even the proxy sensors of Merc. You can get rid of all of it with a singular character if she can find the angle. So we'll see if Vert can get that done. Newers is going to convert himself back over to the Church of the Jackal. This whole attempt to clear out this top floor yet again for Oxygen. We'll see if it bears any fruit.
Chief just kind of flirting with these little window peeks just to make sure Oxygen and try to get themselves up on top of it super early on in this round to clear out the second floor hold. Merc will be doing very much the same exact thing as we continue to see what exactly Oxygen want to deploy towards the opening minute of play. Just a few Arguses being thrown out by Foxes. They kind of need to when you go onto a site where you have to execute through the lobby. It's obviously, as you can see already, just in front of you, how useful those Argus cams can be by throwing them onto the roof. And they're also pretty hard to detect on the roof, too, from the defensive side of things, just due to how much real estate is out there. So Merc's position has been spotted out. He probably is not aware of this yet, but is still going to have to play carefully considering that factor.
Well, down the first minute now, Oxygen's offense has been slowly ramping up. After that last successful round, they're going about things in a very similar fashion. Newers will start his way downstairs and work his way in from Dirt Tunnel. Vertical will check out the top of Square and immediately fall back towards greener pastures for Oxygen as they've built up quite a few bodies around this Square space. Laxing will attempt to dance with death, actually, as some shots come in towards him very crucially. Newers is actually in sight. So is Vertical, and so is Foxy, so is the rest of Oxygen. There's a plant going down with Dream on the far side of Archive. Achieve will be able to get a kill. Don't think TSM are going to be able to battle back from this, but as soon as I say that, I may be sorely mistaken. There is an Achieved, or rather an Oxygen player deep off of Achieve's right. He could potentially get that kill, but it's going to be on the Bolo instead as he's equalized here with these last 30 seconds. Vertical will be able to continually hold on to this. Merc working his way in from the office will take down Vertical. Foxy has to try and shift now and play plant prevent here. Able to take down at least Achieve, but has one more to deal with inside of the office. Some shots back and forth, not able to land them, and it's going to be the secondary pistol to take him down. It's actually the bailiff of Merc. A quick bag and a quick, well, bag as they are able to take the round there. And it's going to be TSM overall here. Very dominant on this defensive end. Just a very awkward round there for Oxygen.
It's a bit too forward, I would say.
Yeah,
right?
and it's going to be a big timeout call here from them as well. I don't think that it was the fact that it was too forward. I think that they just had too much control inside of the site and not enough control outside of the site to where they could actually stop any of the defensemen from rotating into them, and that's really what caused a lot of problems.
Basically, they saw treasure in the dragon's cave, not to realize that the dragon was hiding in the back the whole time, pretty much. So they tried.
It was a hidden wall.
Tried to rush it for like an easy plant, and then didn't realize that there was still like all these roamers like sprinkled all over the place. And the intel game seemed a little weak too. I agree with your point. They definitely didn't have the control off site. No. They didn't really seem to even have the intel off site either, as we had players in open area just swinging left and right, getting multi-kills because members of Oxygen had no idea there was even anyone over there. Just intuition off of obviously previous plays and whatnot, but the actual intel game looked very weak for Oxygen after they got themselves into the site.
You know, I think Oxygen got a decent amount discovered when it came to their clear. The big thing is that, like we were talking about, they didn't set up outside of the direct access to the site to be able to actually slow down any of the TSM members and try and, you know, funnel them to where they have to come in through small office or maybe the elevator hallway and really only give them those two facets, right? They didn't do any of that. And that's how TSM is able to quickly come back into that round. It was really awkward. I was trying to do like calculus practically whilst also shoutcasting there because I legitimately, honest to God, I had no idea which way that round was going to go because, to be honest with you, we didn't really have the whole piece of the puzzle inside of that last round as to how the hell things went down. We didn't see the positioning of most of the Oxygen members. We just saw them walk into site. We had no idea where half the TSM guys were. You could have called it right there at that moment when the plant goes down and be like, it's going to be Oxygen, or it's going to be TSM. And you're probably half right, because I have no idea. So it's just a very, very weird round there for round 10, either way you slice it. But now, luckily enough, we're away from round 9, icky, and we can get into round 10 and hopefully have a better round.
All right, folks, well, we're on the teeter-totter now as well. It's been 3 rounds back to either team on an alternating basis, obviously. So we need to find ourselves a real winner here. Doing this back and forth is not necessarily going to give TSM what they need to close out on the game. Merc, the dirty angle, hiding underneath of the desk. Gonna see if he can maybe catch a few of the members of Oxygen as they try to clear things out upstairs here.
There's 2 rules of bank. Always check under checker's desk and always check under small desk. There is always bound to be some rat just laying here. I'm telling you, and 9 times out of 10, I'm not even joking, it works out. People get so used to people not playing these ratty positions, and it just takes one mistake, and all of a sudden 3 of your teammates are dead, and TSM just went off the back of that. So we'll have to see how it goes, as Newers will now enter the top floor, and there's a makeshift bear trap under a desk awaiting his arrival.
Located a bomb.
Oh, Dream.
Didn't see it, so
Not yet.
not going to be able to venture forward and check. There is another drone zooming its way around the interior of the site,
God.
but yeah,
Oh,
as you can see, both of them have now exited. It does look like that Merc's position went unknown. However, he's still going to move out from it here now, so we'll see what he's exactly going to try to line up for himself. Those players at top stairs appear to be his primary target, and they have no idea he's here. Such a simple one tap against Vert that the other teammate from TSM may actually not have an idea of where that shot came from.
Smart.
Nurse is going to have to hunt for it here now because of the obscurity and try to figure out where Merc has gone. Merc, in the meanwhile, he's chilling. He's just going to sit in this corner, wait for someone else to make a mistake.
No, this is all a time waste right here. Huge time sink and the potential to get another frag. He should have the player moving in from behind him very quickly, but Merc knows that, so he's going to adjust towards the windows and try and play back in towards the site to try and get another kill. Going to tag up one, but they obviously know where he is now. Foxy trying to jump back out. Won't be able to find Merc either. Newers has to swing and pre-fire, but he's going to deal so much damage to him as well. And that's already 2 adrenal surges forced out by a singular player instead of the opening moments of this round. Incredible gameplay here from Merc, holding down that top floor, getting that initial pick, and leaving Oxygen dead in the water. They have to force their way through the entirety of this mid-floor, and there's still a TSM member here. They're going to fall off from small office now, and Oxygen are now the ones that must propel themselves forward to try and stave off TSM from map and match point.
Gio still trying to shift his way over towards top blue here and wait for the eventual flash dump against him. There's the first one, which he's able to avoid. Delay on the others, though, as they're trying to wait out the smart glass timer, but it's off kilter, so he'll be able to get away with a 1-for-1 here. OXG still trade him out, but they've left the case on the stairs. Someone else is going to have to retrieve that as they go back in for the clear here to flush out any defensive presence on the inside of the site. Chala fends off doors. No one has gone back to pick up the case. They've done so now, but the time is up. Foxy literally cannot get to the site in time, and unfortunately he's now the only player left standing here too. Swipes away at least one more member of the squad, but TSM still win it on the timer and push themselves up onto map point now.
Got a drone. You just got a drone, man. That's Rainbow Six. Listen, I'll reconcile with you for a second. I'll level with you, okay? I understand that droning is so unbelievably boring and that you have to do it every single time that a round starts. But if you do it right, then you probably won't run into some of these problems. And that's the big thing, is like all it takes is one mistake, one missed drone, and that could be an entire round. And that's exactly what we just saw from TSM. You know, you give one of these moments where they could potentially get a free pick, or it could be the round, and it works out in your favor. Oxygen do not drone out the top floor properly, and they are manhandled because of it. Merc playing such a very strong role inside of that round, not only because of the first pick, but because of the amount of time wasted. He takes his sweet time under that desk and has to expend a singular bullet to make a game-changing move in that round. That was it. He didn't have to kill anybody else or anything. He kills that one person and adjusts back into the central office and awaits Oxygen's arrival because he knows how much time is worth in a game like Rainbow Six, and works out with flying colors for TSM. They're now on map in match point after they decimate the rest of the Oxygen offense, who's now out and about yet again with practically the exact same lineup we have been seeing from them, minus the Jackal of Newers. He's dropped off of that and instead is bringing the Finka.
Finka re-added back into the Oxygen lineup to give them that mid-fight boosting capability that I'm sure is sorely missed. Achieved in the meanwhile having to dance around some of these holes being opened up just to make sure he doesn't get himself revealed right at the beginning of the round. Newers would be the one hunting from the other side of it. He'll notice that one of those windows got punched. I believe that's the square one, so we'll be keeping a close eye on that in the event that someone from TSM tried to go for a hop. Not going to be happening anytime soon, though, as TSM has not played into that too heavily. We did see it once from Oxygen at the tail end of the previous half. And so far, TSM has been fairly conservative with the aggression. Man, I just jinxed it so hard. I spent like
The caster's curse.
30 seconds talking about how they don't do these runouts, and then Bolo does it to get a kill. Not going to be able to take it further than that kill, though, as Dream does exchange it back out.
And it could have potentially have been onto one of the most, how do we put this? Probably the most expensive operator across the entire
if
lineup.
If there was an economy in this game, Bolo just stole half the account, basically.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, oh man, might want to check your Capital One. I don't know. It's all gone. It's all gone. We're gonna put this into some offshore accounts. Gonna move it over into FICO, and it's gone. Oh, it's all gone. It's all gone. But fortunately enough for Oxygen, it's not actually all gone. As much as you and I do enjoy memeing, they still do have 4 bodies. But as we've talked about throughout the day, Finka's value cannot be underestimated. Anybody on defense minus smoke is practically worth trading out into Finka every single time. So we'll see if Oxygen can try and get through this. They have the skeleton key to be able to break up a lot of this flooring, but Merc, he has a willingness to shoot back. The M590 eats at laxing flags. So much damage dealt. Won't kill him just yet. Going down to the last minute, TSM is looking to take this 7-4.
TSM still an even fight needed to be able to win it, however, with Laxing, of course, being the player that pushes the needle just a little bit more so in the favor of TSM due to low HP. Thankfully, he's the top-down player, but bad news, he's also dead. Merc has finished him off now with another pump with a shotgun. Chief's gonna get spotted out inside of the elevator. That doesn't necessarily mean members of Oxygen can really do anything about it, mainly because they don't have any nades anymore. So they went down on yours. Away from that, members of TSM getting ready to fend off the small number of breaches that we can still see Oxygen properly weigh in towards. Merc will be able to catch Dream. Vertical with a nice insertion here, going to be able to sneak through, but it's Foxy to make the initial impact against Merc. Bring the numbers back down into a more palatable position here for OXG at a 2 versus 3.
Case is on vertical, and he's moving in his way in from kitchen. He has Chala on site to deal with. Foxy inside of small, trying to push his way through archives, and he'll be able to do so. Plant now starting. Foxy has the cross here, but he's got to make the most grand of stands. Tries to swing through against the castle, but where's the other player at? Foxy's got the cover. It's a triple for Foxy. TSM, it's slipping away. Add the 2v2. Now down to the 1 versus 2 for Geo. It'd be a huge round for him. They're both so very low to the point where the ump can more than likely take them out with just the body shots now. Bounces back and forth. Has to worry about the positioning of Foxy at the current moment as well. He'll sprint forward, but look at how he's paying attention to when he needs to keep this gun up. Foxy so very low. Oh, this timer. Continue to pay attention to this timer. He has to get there in 7 seconds. Vertical to run away. He's dipping out, and that's going to be it on time. Oxygen claim the round. Vertical with the kill. And, you know, with Foxy kind of having that ghost pressure around archives, right? You really don't know if he's holding that angle there or not. He could be there. He couldn't be. If you swing into it, you give another body over. You don't want to do that. You're kind of hanging about, and that allows him to work his way in through archive into small and get those kills that we did end up seeing. So incredible play from that 2vx situation for Oxygen as they will stave off their elimination here, or at least the ending of this map in a 7-5 fashion.
Yeah, big shout-outs to Foxy for the way he managed the interior site play after the plant had gone down there. Beautifully done from what I believe was a 2v4 at the start of it there to negotiate so many of those kills and keep himself at fairly decent HP for the large majority of that fight as well. Beautiful stuff to keep Oxygen in the fight. Now they've got to do it one more time, and that only enables the 1 out of 2 points they can still get for themselves in this matchup here. Need to get this next round, though, otherwise it'll be 0, and TSM will be taking a full 3 with a 7-5 scoreline. Let's see, though. This TSM did change up their site choice. Initially, was going to go back over, I believe, in towards Tellers for this one, but did end up switching it up to the second floor hold instead, where they'll attempt to fend off the advances, of Oxygen here, starting off with yours. Going for the quick insertion yet again through the basement. Won't be alone here either. Vertical supporting him with a drone and more than likely with his body relatively soon as he's positioned on the inside of dirt tunnels.
Slow and steady for Oxygen. Not make a mistake inside of this round, or it could end up coming back to bite them. And fortunately enough, they'll start off strong. They're going to take down Merc, and it's going to be Newers on the entry this time around. Time and time again, coming up through this basement, but fortunately enough, able to catch TSM a certain way to find that kill on the main stairs. And now for TSM, they're going to try and stick to their guns around some of these far-reaching moments of the map. Geo's going to actually end up getting a Selma charged here and forced back into the elevator. Oxygen doing a very, very strong job of breaking up this map at the current moment.
So Oxygen still looking to build themselves up into a position where they feel they have the confidence to swing upstairs, clear out the remnants of this defensive setup, being very cautious as well about making sure they maintain as much positioning as possible before they try to adventure towards that. TSM, though, have gone very quiet since the loss of Merc. Virtually zero aggression coming out for them, although they are mainstaying into their current positions over towards like Elevator as well as Stocks. They have some extension, some map control to play for here, whereas Oxygen still gaining the large majority of it, at least as far as the second floor is concerned here. Able to negotiate first floor control without too much of an issue, but moving beyond this is where the problems potentially are going to start to surface. We'll begin to see them fight for that second floor control now as Vertical makes the ascension with Newers right behind him, ready to move in from the balcony door. Unfortunately, though, Vertical will lose about half of his HP from making that advance. With the Fink in play, however, they'll be able to boost that right back up.
Well, the biggest tale of the tape is what happens with Achieved. Look at his positioning currently on blue stairs. Foxay will be worried about bottom square. Doesn't have any more cameras to dedicate to this, but as long as they have somebody in this space, Achieved should more than likely die on this entry. But Oxygen, speaking of entries, actually have to hightail it into sight here momentarily. Chala with a nice big swing. Some serious damage dealt to him, but it'll be confirmed from Vertical. Oh no, Achieved. That was it. That was it right there. He could have just ended the round potentially, but now they know he's downstairs. Oh, back and forth they go. They know the square players around, but they need to get this plant down. Geometrics moving his way across the actual area. Knows one swinging in, but it's a prone angle, and Newers will pick him up at the top of square as the entire bookshelf has been disintegrated. It'll give him an angle, an Oxygen the round.
And Geo again, good attempt to play it out from the 1vx, but unfortunately just read like a book there as he goes for the prone attempt to take down the repelling player. The one on the outside by square reads into him, shuts him down from that prone spot and stops the clutch from going any further. Now ties us up at 6-6, activates overtime, and the 3 additional rounds that'll come with it. Fortunately, is going to remove some of the point totals these teams can now gain out of this matchup, but leaves the maximum at 2 for our winners here. Next team to pick up 2 rounds, and meanwhile, will be able to take it. TSM have the slight advantage by playing onto the defensive side and being able to go back, of course, now to the basement.
Well, at a minimum, at least the games that we're splitting with the desk are absolute bangers. Apparently, we need to do that more often because, I mean, these teams are fighting for our glory at the current moment, as well as TSM's fighting to keep me over 80% on my pick rate. So let's go TSM. You know, this overtime, we're really hoping they close it out. But to be honest with you, I think that this is going to favor TSM pretty handily when it comes to the defensive ends and the fact that they're going to have a majority of them when it comes to this overtime. I can definitely see Oxygen bouncing back and claiming this next round. If we see TSM take this, more than likely going to require all 15 in my eyes. But, you know, this is why we play out the game. Literally anything could happen, but it all starts now here as we've shifted a couple gears for Oxygen. We've dropped it down into third, and we're about to blast off as Vertical will end up picking up the Jackal for the top clear. Newers will stick to his guns, or a better way to put that would be gun, as he will be back onto the LMG.
Oxygen players working on getting themselves into solid positioning here, starting out with the square assault that they can then use as a springboard for the rest of their take. Need to clear out the presence from TSM upstairs, of course. Here, there's not going to be much of it either. You only really have 1 to 2 players kind of roaming around here, and it's quite casual, just maintaining staircase position more than anything, which even that has already been given up. So easy advantage here for Oxygen to get the round started, but how do they clear out the matrix on the first floor, going all the way into areas like tellers and whatnot, as well as Merc still having this solid position to play from at the bottom of the stairs. If Oxygen want to test that, they can, but it probably will end up going pretty heftily into Merc's favor. He'll be spotted out by a drone, at least they'll know where to aim now, and Merc will also have to second guess the advances coming in from Oxygen, as he'll believe there's going to be pressure coming in from the lobby. He'd be right to assume so. There's a reconfirmation of Oryx's position being played out from behind the beepers still too. Eventually Merc will just have to fall back from it here and descend into the basement with his other support.
Yes, indeed, but the amount of time wasted for TSM at the current moment, it's at least solid. I always want to get just about half of their rounds. TSM will leave just a little bit earlier than usual, but obviously given the circumstances, it is definitely worth Bolo. Make me clench myself there for just a moment as at Nitro, so won't be thrown up into open area, but fortunately enough, Newer's good for it. able to take that out before it ends up in a very unfortunate circumstance for him. But in that circumstance, TSM, they've delayed even more time, and Oxygen still have a couple of different areas that they need to try and gain access to. It'll start with the lobby hatch being open and potentially the square hatch here. Looks like they've already gotten the hatch open for small office though, and obviously, as we all know, the small, or rather open area hatch already opened as we had the TSM members vacate that moments ago. But as you can see, small hatch is actually already open, so Oxygen can try and wrap around this and start looking where potentially they can put this plant. It's going to be hard to find with the amount of TSM bodies in the area.
Yours and the rest of Oxygen ready to jump down here, but are they really? That now becomes the question. A little bit of confidence issue potentially for Nerds as he tries to swing out into it, but he's not going to be the only one from his team making the play. The others, in fact, try to drop back in through the hatches themselves. TSM does not seem to be ready for this challenge here as Geo walks right into Vertical, not expecting a player to be directly in his face. Vertical, with the control he now has deeper on the inside of security, is really going to try and use this here to just bully everyone from TSM, and it'll work perfectly. A triple up on the board now for Vert, the plant in the middle of going down for Dream, so that's been secured. However, Mer with a chance to stop it. Can he do so? No! Nura saves the day instead, and Oxygen gets the opening round of overtime.
Well, not exactly the way that I thought we were going to see TSM dismantled there, but Vertical hitting every single shot, a devious lick, one would say, throughout most of the end round there. Especially with the push into blue, I mean, the smoke working out extremely well for them to try and break up some of these lines of sight. He drops small area and then charges into server to take out Geo. He knows Geo's going to be doubling back down blue, and he catches him exactly how he wants him, completely off guard. Full sprint animation right to the bottom door and able to take him down. And then he just doubles down on the aggression. When he comes back into server and then into CCTV, he doesn't slow down at all. He keeps pushing himself through and trying to kill as many of these TSM members as humanly possible, even down to swinging into the garage angle, taking out the red player because TSM were so taken aback. And now Oxygen with a very serious opportunity to take this map right here.
So TSM now going to be fighting from the back end of this disadvantage here. Oxygen with the opportunity to take it in this very round. It's do or die time for our attackers, but our defenders have a little bit of an easier round coming up here because they can also fall back on the general benefits of the basement defense too, since again, we are in a new half, so to speak. It will have reset things for Oxygen. They can go back to the sites they've already won, and we have seen them close this out on at least one occasion. Attackers as well, though, were able to work their way past it in quite convincing fashion by using a late round hatch drop into the other side of the site, closer into the vault here. However, problem going to be, Oxygen, though, more than likely not get tripped up by that same strategy twice, so TSM will have to bring something else to bear, whether it's just a stronger security push or something new entirely, to be able to get themselves into this site for yet another time and keep their hopes alive of being able to stay in this fight.
Quiet across bank at the current moment. No entry point for TSM up until Bolo swings in for the top floor. They've got the drones up, as well as Bolo obviously has the Inox to be able to search through this and see if they can try and find any extra info. He'll pick up his drone, start working his way towards the mid-floor, but obviously we don't have that many Oxygen members that are actually close to an engagement. They're all playing around the hatch and trying to drop off, and that's exactly what they're going to do. This is exactly what we saw from TSM inside of the last round, and we saw just how well that went for them. So we'll see if TSM can try and fit inside of the same shoes as Oxygen from their last offensive half. Laxing actually going to bring the curveball here, the Electro Claws coming in finally, and they have indeed caught TSM completely off guard. Obviously no access to Maverick, but they haven't brought the Thatcher.
So that's going to cause some serious issues for TSM as they try to open up some pathway forward. They get themselves into the site. Now, for instance, the security wall from server might be a bit more workable, but not if they end up losing most of their utility before they get there. Foxe with a nice nitro sends it up singing against Bolo, knocking out the roam clear up here. The good news is we have passed the point in the round where that Inox is going to be super useful. It's more so just the player being lost more than anything else is going to be the problem here for TSM.
Yes, indeed, and a bigger problem, we're down to the last minute now. Oxygen have shut down practically every entry point you could possibly want. It's going to take a gunfight in order to get into this building now, or rather the actual site. Drone in, so they'll know at least somebody is playing deep towards cart, and that's going to allow this barbed wire to get broken up and potentially some more space to be taken. But concussion's now in. Foxay is going to continue to pre-fire, but nobody's made any good off this promise. Oxygen, this is going to be an OXG round. No one's doing anything with the utility game of TSM. You have to push off of that, and now they're being punished outright here. Achieve to work his way in. I'm surprised he didn't get pre-fired through the soft panel there on a moment's notice, but luckily he's still alive. Viewers will take down Shala. It's all left up to Achieved, who's now dead as well, and Oxygen will win it out in overtime, taking both OT rounds for themselves and showing up TSM on one of their strongest maps at SI.
So OXG bring things back under their control at the tail end of our map here on Bank. They'll take it, as Stokes said, in overtime, claiming him 2 points.